John 17, Jesus' prayer to be as one, and that we will be known by the love that we have for each other and our unity together. And so just the United States, if we just focus there, it isn't a picture of the global church. It isn't a picture of that unity coming to full fruition. And so I think that and I think we have so much to learn from other parts of the world. We know that the global South is now leading, leading the way in terms of people coming to Christ, and we have a lot to learn from the global church. So we need to kind of remove our focuses on learning from particularly the West, and saying, what can we learn from the other parts of the world?
Well, hello, everyone. Today, I get a chance to get to know a new friend, Paul Martel. And while not related to my sister-in-law, Sarah Martel, and the Martel family, but how are you today?
I'm great. Glad to be here.
Yeah, here we are in Austin. Share a little bit. What do you do for a living?
Well, right now I'm working on a new nonprofit called Global.Church, Global.Church, and it's all about bringing the global church together on a digital infrastructure layer, and then helping drive engagement. That's kind of my current initiative.
Yeah, you currently live in Austin. Before that, you were in Dallas and all of that, and we were just talking about. But yeah, at the same time, it wasn't like you woke up one day and says, I'm going to work in tech and video and work with the global church. You got your start in criminology, of all things, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. My degree was in criminology, and going through the years of college, I kind of realized that wasn't going to be for me. I was really feeling called to kind of put my faith into my professional life.
Yeah.
And certainly I could have done that in the criminology world. Made a big impact there for sure. But for me, I felt it was not going to be quite a fit for me.
Yeah. Like criminology, what were you interested in? Where you just said, man, I just want to do something with CSI and all that other stuff. And then what made you decide to pivot?
Yeah, I mean, ever since I was a little kid, I would love to watch shows like Rescue 911, where you have people calling in for help, and then you have a centralized place that can go and respond and help meet people's needs. And so that always just helping people was kind of a thing that I was always really interested in. I was a 911 operator during college.
You were?
It was great.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that. So I started as taking 911 calls, helping send responses, did police dispatch, NCIC. Those kind of things, and it was always just something about being able to receive, a request for help and helping to fulfill that.
Yeah. And then at what point you were sitting there? Was it toward your senior year or junior year where you said, nah, this probably isn't for me. I enjoy it, but not its career.
Yeah. I think it was toward the end of my degree. I was really kind of seeing that what was going to be required of me. I was really interested in kind of doing some federal law enforcement. Did some interviews with some of the firms, and that's a very long process. But by the time they kind of came back and said, yeah, hey, we want you to kind of join, I was kind of in a place where I was like, I don't feel like this is the right fit for me.
Got it. Yeah. And then you got involved in your local church doing video, and that opened up a whole new world that you probably never dreamed of, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Out of college, I was kind of like, well, where's my passion really line up? And so I wanted to step into that. That was at the time audio, video, broadcast. And so I got a job at as a webcaster at Hewlett-Packard, started doing broadcasts for their CEOs. And then
seriously?
Got into video
That was
engineering.
a new thing. That was a new thing.
Totally new. A whole new industry learning. So I was learning how to do video broadcast worldwide. So we would do uplink on satellite, downlink. We would do distribution worldwide over terrestrial networks. And then also at the same time helping my church just volunteer. I was doing video directing for our services in the weekend, and helping them as an AV tech.
And it was at that time where churches started having multi-sites, and we were just talking offline that you had that Wi-Fi connection. Maybe you'll load up Skype and you'll try to play on Skype. This was before Zoom and all that other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, our church their vision was 10 campuses in 10 years. They wanted to be hyper-local instead of have one large church. And they were using video at the time. And they were pre-recording and then, using delivery for it. We called it SneakerNet. Just taking a USB drive over to their campuses and playing it. But there was a time delay, and so if something would happen across the weekend from maybe when the pastor preached on Friday to when they were playing it on Sunday and they didn't speak to it, it felt insensitive. It just felt like a miss. And so live streaming was really interesting because you could have the real time, you could have very, very low latency communication. And so they were really trying to do that.
What did you do to address the problem?
Well, it was very clear that trying to stream over the public internet was the cheapest way to get the video signal there, rather than a dedicated internet. But it was very unreliable, and so we had this problem at our main campus that the internet would just go out randomly. We'd have the IT teams, like everyone looking at the problem. Why is this happening? And couldn't figure it out, and yet we still needed to do this. And so I got with one of the volunteers at the other campuses, and he was from Cisco, and he had developed the web stack for video conferencing there. And I was like, hey, I think between us, if we put our heads together, I think we can probably solve and create a solution that can make sure the video is totally reliable, even if the internet cuts out, for a minute or so. And we ended up doing that. We iterated it on. It took us about 2 years to kind of figure out, explore all the software, all the hardware, and then we ended up just creating our own.
So you create your own software?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah, it ended up being a full solution. So creating the hardware for encoders to capture video, decoders to play out the video, a whole DVR system, the cloud infrastructure to distribute it. But together we were able to kind of plan, design, and then build and deploy that.
All right, before all this, what was the feeling like when you finally created the working product? How did you feel?
Oh, gosh, well, I would say leading up to that, it's a constant every week of fearing that the video is going to fail, because we were trying all these solutions that kept failing. And so we're like, well, we need to solve this. And so I would say the first time we got a solution that finally had, like, we didn't have the fear of it failing. It was like, oh my gosh, like this is such a relief. And the people in the audience, we're finally able to connect deeply with the message without it being interrupted or have the fear of it being interrupted, which was so critical for us.
How many prototypes of failed products did you have to work on before you finally got to that?
Oh man, it started with just literally exploring every possible thing that was on the market. Everything from like $40,000, $50,000 pieces of hardware that said that it could do it and it failing, to software by Microsoft, their servers that they at one point used for the Olympics, it also failing. And then we iterated on our own various, like I would say 3 or 4 different solutions of our own, like just rolling our own solution before we finally got something that was scalable and highly reliable and intuitive to use. Wonderful. It was really important because we were having volunteers operate this, so it needed to be as much hands-off as possible.
Yes, it had to be in some sense simple, stupid, where they could figure it out with changing the volunteers. You're not dependent on all these things.
That's right, and automating as much as we could. So we would put the encoders on a schedule to start and stop automatically, so they didn't even have to touch it.
Wow.
And then each campus at the receiving end was able to play and stop whenever they were ready for that campus.
And out of that product, did you then start selling it to all these other churches and you created a whole thing? Is that?
Well, I wasn't looking for that at the time. I think, since I was about 15 years old, I was always kind of looking for a SaaS business. I just felt like that was a really good model to start. And I was always looking for that idea, but I wasn't particularly trying to do that in the faith market, And so I was just like, hey, this is a problem that I think a lot of churches are having. So I started blogging about it, just trying to write about it and say, here's how you did it. But that blog just kept getting longer and longer. And then other churches started asking. They were like, hey, they'd come to the church and they'd say, how are you guys doing this? And then they'd point them to kind of me and my partner who had started this. And they're like, well, can we just pay you to do it for us? Because we don't want to go try to build it ourselves. And we thought about it and we're like, well, we think that the market's big enough. We think that it's, we're passionate about this cause, helping the global church. And so together we decided, let's go ahead and make this a service that we can offer to other churches. And that's kind of how it got started.
Wonderful. Yeah. And how long did you run this company? Was it you and your partner? How long did you run this company for?
So I was a part of the company for about 7 years. So it started with just a couple of people, and we ended up growing it. When I left about a year and a half ago, it was 130 employees across the team. We served about 6,000 churches. 6,000.
So every single week you're coordinating their services, their link ups, everything like that. Wow. Yep. Okay. Yeah. And what made you decide to finally leave?
Well, I think for me, I would say it was mission accomplished. The problem that was really in front of me to solve, which was really supporting the live streaming of multi-sites, we're really struggling at the time with reliable solutions. We solved that problem, and then we built a team that was able to carry that work onward. And so for me, it was I would say I'm kind of 0 to 1, kind of. That's what really gets me excited. The scaling at the more mature levels, where there's more process, more formalization. That's not really my wheelhouse. I kind of like to do the net new. What's the core problem that needs to be solved, and let's create a solution for it, and then set it up to carry on, but then maybe move on to the next thing.
Going back to the problem that you were initially solving, looking back, were you missing something that it finally hit you? Oh my gosh, this is something we need to be doing. How did you finally find the solution to it?
I think it was just a process of experiencing the failures myself. Going to one of the campuses that were playing the video from the broadcast campus and seeing the video fail and seeing the congregation. One of the pastors that I talked with, he's like, there's just a lull that comes over the congregation when you're trying to engage with something, and then it cuts out and you miss the whole idea, you miss the whole concept. And so I think that was a really strong catalyst to saying hey, this is a major problem, and we got to find a solution to it.
Very good. Global.Church, after you left the company, then you started Global.Church, or was there something in between?
Yeah, I think the company was extremely taxing on me personally. The growth that we had, we launched a new product that was going to the web in addition to multi-site campuses a month before COVID. And then COVID hits, and now everybody needs to be online and watch because they can't go in person, right? And so we grew by, I would say, 500% in a month, the company, right? And so that put an extreme tax on me.
You were up probably late every single night.
Our whole team was. It was just our whole team rallying together to help support churches. Our operations team to mobilize hardware because we were just trying to support as many churches as we could.
And you didn't even know how long is this going to last.
Right.
Is this, our team's getting tired. They're going to have to keep pushing until we get to that point. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And it was also just a beautiful time because there were a lot of pastors at the time that were very hesitant towards digital and reaching out because they didn't want it to take away from the in-person community, which is so precious. But a lot of pastors through that process really saw the impact that they could have reaching with digital. And so they were kind of getting on board because they had no other reason, and they were having a lot of success. Our home church, my church where it started, on an average weekly attendance of about 5,000 between all the campuses. That first weekend of COVID, when everything shut down, they had 77,000 people online because there were so few options for people to get to church. So few churches relatively at the time were online and had good web presence, SEO. But this church had been doing it for years. And so when people were searching, hey, I feel called and I want to go to church, or I can't go to my own church, where can I find it online? 77,000 people landed on that church because they were prepared, they were ready.
And I think a lot of times this was probably before Zoom really became popular and all that other stuff. Okay.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
And then this concept, what you're working on right now, talk to me about what you're up to.
Yeah, I think I have a real strong passion for just helping create a funnel basically for people to come in, believers, pre-believers to come in, find communities, find a church that's local to them, find trusted content that can help them grow in their discipleship journey, and then mobilize them into action. And so those kind of three pillars, the community, the content, and the missional action is a platform that I'm working on for Global.Church.
Got it. What's your hope? At the end of the day, are you hoping to get churches or ministries to subscribe to it, or what were you hoping to do with the product?
I love that question. I think one of the things that's really important to me is to help bring about, I would call it a systemic change into deconstructing silos, churches operating in silos, into more collaborative stance, seeing each other as partners in the Great Commission, helping to reduce the competitive nature or highlighting the differences so much rather than what we have in common. And differences are great. We don't want to be a soup, we want to be a salad. It's kind of one of the phrases my church uses. But really to help the church build together and collaborate together in making disciples and ultimately accomplishing the Great Commission. And we just have a lack of framework to do that right now. Ministries all across the world have specific domains that they feel called to, but there's no common data set that they can work with, so they build their own. And you stand up a continual standing up of individual data silos that don't talk to each other, don't have common definitions. And so we want to create that at Global Church, is create a standardized data set. And it's not about getting everyone to say that this is the best definition for this word. It's about giving them a lens to see, here's a way that we can see this data set, this data type, and so that's good enough so that other ministries can use it and then catalyze effectiveness in their specific domain.
What are you what would that eventually look like? Is that built, by the way, if I go to Global.Church?
Nope, you'll just see a holding page right now. We have a proof of concept behind that, that we're sharing with partners and exploring ideas and refining those, and we're working towards an MVP, hoping something later this year. We have a target for it, but right now we're really trying to make sure that we're going to do it in a way that it has a sense of co-creation. We don't want to do this in a silo. It's very decentralized mindset where we're co-creating this solution, and so we're getting a lot of feedback on partners to make sure that, hey, what we're creating is going to be used by them, and then they actually can participate in channeling their data into something that makes sense to them.
At the end of the day, even with this particular product, success, you knew what was going to be in your product. What is success going to be look like with this particular initiative?
Yeah, I would say providing a place where people can funnel into. Because right now, so many ministries, they might be outreach or evangelistic, but they don't have a platform, for example, to send people to actually activate them and engage them in their discipleship journey. So one aspect is being able to funnel in people to connect to communities. You'll see people connecting to local churches and finding and getting connected, right? They will be able to find contextualized content that's most relevant to them, where they are in their spiritual journey, so they can deepen their discipleship, and then they can go and actually mobilize their faith. So knowing their skill set, finding them with opportunities to serve in the world, pairing them, and then mobilizing them into action. So there's the user engagement layer. And then also it's funneling those users into other ministries that are in this ecosystem. So being able to highlight different ministries that are specific domains, we want to create a dashboard that highlights people and helps elevate the awareness of these other opportunities, these other specialized ministries, and drive them into those ministries and drive them to support those ministry efforts.
Yeah. Now, will anyone be able to partner with you, or you're going to look at specific partners to partner with you on this one?
We're very open, very much exploring what that looks like. I would say we're probably taking the approach closest to an organization such as Lausanne, where they are ecumenical. They're trying to get the global church to work together. They obviously have their Lausanne covenant, which has a statement of faith, but it's intended to be broad, to cover multiple denominations. So we're probably going to use a lens, something very similar to that, as a foundational framework of which partners make sense to come around the ecosystem with. But again, that's intended to be broad. And then being able to create filters and levels for the individual users to drill in a little bit deeper if they care more about specialized in a particular domain.
When you were a young kid, high school or even grammar school, what did you think you were going to do?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. I think that it would probably be somewhere in law enforcement or federal law enforcement, helping to make a big difference in good.
So you were always passionate about that.
I think so. Yeah.
You look back now, and in terms of what you're doing, why do you think God gave you a passion for criminology and all of that, and suddenly pivot and change to what you're doing now?
That's a good question. I think I don't know. There's something about understanding the way people think that I think criminology really helped me understand. And one of the things that I really love to do personally is take maybe a complex topic and make it and reduce it to something that is really accessible to the everyday user. So I think there's something about understanding why we are the way we are, or the social constructs that we live in, and the underlying reasons of why we do certain things, that is really helpful and important to understand when you are creating a tool that people are actually going to use. So I don't know, maybe it's just like understanding the motivations, and then how do you activate engagement might be something of why that background of
Yeah.
criminology, studying the way people think, the way why people act, mob mentalities, those kind of things, right? How do you funnel that actually into good with technology and using technology to advance goals? And then my ultimate goal would be what the church's goal is, which is the Great Commission.
Yeah. Why global church? Why not a church? All the churches in the U.S. Why start with the global church?
I think it goes back to John 17, Jesus' prayer to be as one, and that we will be known by the love that we have for each other and our unity together. And so just the United States, if we just focus there, it isn't a picture of the global church. It isn't a picture of that unity coming to full fruition. And so I think that and I think we have so much to learn from other parts of the world. We know that the global South is now leading, leading the way in terms of people coming to Christ, and we have a lot to learn from the global church. So we need to kind of remove our focuses on learning from particularly the West and saying, what can we learn from the other parts of the world?
You ever heard of a guy by the name of Ray Bakke?
I haven't.
Ray Bakke he's since passed in his 80s and all that, but he was this global professor, and he would sit there and he wrote this book called Theology as Big as the City and all that stuff. But he says, Tommy, whenever we travel together, he says, you got to learn to exegete the community. You have to understand that when you go into community, we went to Lima, Peru together and all these other places. God has gotten a vision way before you were born when he created what the culture would be, what the vision would be, all of that stuff. So when you go in, don't ever be the guy who says, well, I'm from Chicago. I did it well here, so you're going to have to do it. You got to learn, say, Lord, how are you working in this city? What are you doing with the people in the city? And through that prayer, how can I serve the city well? And he was very, very good of honoring and caring for that.
I love that. Yeah, that's beautiful. I think contextualization is so important. And, I'm really passionate about building tools that can help take the global church forward, but it's got to be a framework that can be localized, hyper-localized. And I think there's a lot of cross-pollination between different areas that the church can benefit from. But at the same time, you're right. Like there is cultural context in these regions that are very that need to be particular to reach those people. It needs to be in their language. But having a common framework that allows you to have different pockets within a highly efficient common framework, I think, is something that we're trying to unlock to empower the contextualization, but on a global scale. All these ideas, creative, do they just come to you and you're tinkering? Like, do you have like 4 or 5 ideas you're always tinkering around with, or how does your brain work? Man, I'm not very good at coming up from a net zero, like nothing. I have to build on something else.
You have to see something and say, oh, if you tinker this, if you could do something, you could do this.
I think for Global Church, the original idea started about 8 years ago, with a friend, and we're just like thinking about what do we see in the gospel for discipleship making? What's required? Well, community, being a part of community is one. Learning from scripture, learning from teaching is another one. Obviously prayer. And then I would say also going out and living out your faith. And so those were kind of like 3 pillars that 8 years ago we kind of figured hey, these are really core. But whenever I first started this project again, I went through and I came across Lausanne. I read all of the listening calls and saying, what are the global leaders around the world saying are the biggest problems? And so I had this like 100-page working document saying like, here's how these fit into specific categories. And I would say that's how I refined the process of what should we actually do? It's from the process of listening and then doing analysis and then prototyping and trying it out and then revising around from that.
Do you feel like as you start the global church, are you going to start in Africa first, Asia, Europe, Latin America? Which one do you think fits in as you start?
It's such a good question, and I don't think we have quite landed on the answer. We are circling around Singapore as a potential first launch, but we quite haven't answered that yet.
Any last thoughts about the global church? What are you learning about the global church that excites you?
I am learning that the Spirit is speaking the same message to a lot of different people. There is an incredible amount of momentum in collaboration and wanting to work together. And a lot of people are seeing this need for this lack of data layer, this lack of interoperability, this lack of the ability for the global church to work together on a digital layer. Some of the most powerful things that we could do in this day and age are at our fingertips, but we need to put them together and then put them in the hands of the ministries. And I feel like what I'm seeing is the Spirit is saying that same message to many people. And so we don't want to be creating something in a silo. So we're trying to really prioritize connecting with the people who I feel like the same Spirit is speaking the same message to, and figure out how can we work together to bring this about. It takes catalytic leadership. It takes people who are going to roll up their sleeves and do it. But I don't know. It's just been amazing to see that.
Yeah, very, very good. Were you also at Lausanne this past year in Seoul, Korea?
Yeah. It was a pleasure to be there.
They always have table groups. Amongst your table group, who was part of that table group?
I was actually part of the team that was helping do the digital broadcast. So I was upstairs, in one of the rooms, just helping to make that happen. So I didn't actually get to sit in the room. I was kind of getting the digest version that was going out to the stream of people all over the world. So I was helping make that happen. That was kind of my role there.
Paul Martel, thank you very much for taking some time out to talk.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.